Hi, I'm Jesse with Canine Perspective, and today I have a question that a client emailed to me. And since there's a lot of information when I'm responding to emails, like it takes me I think longer to type the email than it does to actually than I would be just to say it. So I thought it'd be a nice opportunity to answer her question, but then also provide more information to those looking for answers. And this is not an uncommon occurrence, at least with what she's asking here. So I thought it just also benefit my clients as well. So this is from Rachel. I might skip over a little bit of it. Hello, it's been a long time, and I hope you're doing well. This is Rachel. My boyfriend Zach and I brought my dog Marshall in to do training lessons with you over a year ago for resource aggression, some other aggressive triggers, and general obedience training. Things have been going really well for a long time. He just passed his year mark for his last bite and really any other aggressive behavior. However, this week he started growling at Zach for seemingly no reason. He will still come up for pets and wags his tail with him, but wags his tail with him, but growls while doing so and has bore his teeth at him a time or two. This only started a few days ago, and Zach said they had no incident that might have spurred this that he can think of. I was out of town for a few days and then went straight back to working night shift. So I can't tell if this is because I haven't been home and he's getting mad at a change in schedule, or if this is some other cause that you might think of for unprompted aggression towards Zach. He has not done this at all, to me at all. This all said, this is all very unprompted to you, and I understand if because we aren't current clients, you can't give feedback. We have stayed since moved to North Carolina, love it, but missed the care that Marshall got in Chicago with you guys. All right. So first off, for all my clients, past, present, future, I always tell them, you always have my technical support. Okay, I have clients from 10 years ago that'll ask the occasional question, here and there. And I'm always happy to answer. Sometimes it might take me a little bit longer to get back to them, simply because I have so much more responsibility. So thank you, Rachel, for your question. So here, it sounds like I do agree that potentially the change in your schedule has changed things for Marshall, changed the dynamic a bit, and has put him under stress. And possibly frustration as well due to the change, and he's bullying Zach as a way of he's redirecting that kind of that frustration is how I would look at this. You're not the first person who's had something like this happen, where there's a change in work schedule or a change in the household. There's some kind of change dynamically within the home, and then the dog gets frustrated or stressed due to the change. But then, especially obviously if there's behavior issues, the dog will start exhibiting these kind of bully type behaviors. To give you an example, I had a client whose dog was completely friendly, completely social, loved people coming over, all that stuff. And they literally moved across the street, and that little move flipped the dog and became territorial. And when I did the assessment, I didn't think like this was going to be anything severe, and it turned out to be very severe. Like the dog was legit territorially aggressive, where I had to wear a bite suit and everything. And all they did was just move across the street, and they had the dog for years, and again, completely social, completely friendly, until that catalyst of just moving changed things in the dog's brain, and then it became hyper aggressive. Right? So I've seen stuff similar to this. So what I would do here is remember, a tail wagging does not mean friendly. Okay, wagging tail does not mean friendly. We want to look at how the dog is postured. If Marshall were to slowly approach me, especially with its head low, wagging that tail low and slow, or maybe even high and slow, I'm reading tension right there. Okay, so he's already coming at me with tension for whatever reason. So if I misread that and I start petting the dog, I'm now adding stimulation on top of the frustration or whatever it is the dog is feeling at the time, and it escalates the brain or stimulates the brain, and a stimulated brain is more likely to move forward into an aggressive mindset. Okay, so this is where sometimes people will say my dog was completely excited, and then all of a sudden bit the person. right? I go, right, because, if we have a nervous dog, especially, the excitement, and then once the excitement starts to dissolve and the dog is like, oh, I'm kind of nervous of the situation, it literally just flips into aggression and the dog will just respond, okay? So we don't want to add anything on top of that, okay? Now, we want to be careful here because, one, we don't want to acknowledge Marshall because we might stimulate, but then also, if I start petting him and really he was just coming to bully me, I've now given him another reason to bully me, which is, hey, don't touch me, right? And if he's baring his teeth and growling, that's the warning, right? So if I ignore that or like it's okay, and we very also reading that, don't want to add energy. So touch is already energy, but I definitely don't want to say it's okay, because that sound, changes things, and that's where things also get pushed to the next level, okay, where the dog escalates things. So just make sure this week he started growling at Zach for seemingly no reason. He will still come up for pets and wags his tail with him, but growls while doing so and has bore his teeth at him a time or two. Yeah, he's bullying him for sure. Okay. So what I would recommend is Zach stop giving Marshall affection. Okay, because affection is, in my opinion, a weak behavior. Okay, and this is where things get tricky because humans get their dogs for companionship, but in Marshall's case, he doesn't need companionship, he needs leadership. Okay, and you can't be your dog's leader, you can't be their authority figure, while also being their buddy at the same time. Okay, so I remember that rule. I'm sure we covered it. 80% work to 80% work to 20% play. Same thing with this. It's 80% leadership to 20% buddyship, companionship. Okay, so like cops, they're authority figures. They're not our friends, right? They're there to give us consequence if we get out of line. Okay, so if Marshall sees someone as a companion or a buddy, if you will, that means he sees you less than him, and he may potentially begin to bully you, okay? Because it's empowering for him. It can lift the ego, so to speak, all right? So this is where things get tricky with dogs, especially when we get dogs with behavioral issues, just because obviously we got them for companionship, but then they have these problem behaviors. And then if you're always acting, buddy with him, if one day you get out of line, he's gonna put you in your place because he sees you below him, okay? So what I would recommend here is that Zach stop treating Marshall as a companion or a buddy and just start treating him like a dog, okay? And it sucks, but unfortunately, in these kinds of cases, you can't have your cake and eat it too. I've had this happen before where an owner will get a dog for companionship and the dog just has either severe reactivity or severe aggression or whatever. And, we start to get things in check, but then the moment the owner starts, being more buddy-buddy with the dog, all of a sudden the behavior starts to come back, right? Because now the owner is working against themselves. So what I would suggest here is that Zach take a step back of being a buddy. Sorry, I had a little bit of a coughing fit there. I recommend that Zach take a step back from that companionship role and really take a leadership role. So what I would start with is take Marshall's working number, right, for whatever the situation. So if he's doing place, if his typical working number is 30, when you correct him, I would correct him now at 45, 50, okay? And I would have Zach be the one that tells him place, so now he's under technically Zach's command. And when he gets out of line, remember, we don't repeat, we reinforce. Don't repeat the command, reinforce in the collar. Correct him at that 45, 50. So you're correcting him more harshly for a mundane thing, right? Same thing when you go for walks. If you walk together, have Zach walk him instead, or be in control of the walk. Raise that number again. If your heel number is 45, raise it to 60. Okay, we're raising it 15 to 20 levels higher. So when Zach corrects him, Marshall should look concerned, okay? So we're correcting him outside of the problem. The reason why I do it this way is I start getting into the dog's head outside of the context of the problem, and typically I then don't even see the problem, okay? Because we tend to think, oh, he's growling and baring his teeth at me, I'm going to recreate the situation and then correct them, which is an answer. I'm not saying that it's not. But you're more likely to escalate there, okay? So what I do is I start correcting the dog in all these other instances at a higher level, and they go, shit, like, you mean business, you're serious, right? And it starts to change things in the dog's head. And these behaviors will go away. So I don't care about the obedience. The obedience is not going to fix the problem. It's the consequence behind the obedience that's going to help fix the problem, okay? Same thing if Zach enters the home and Marshall jumps on him out of excitement. I would correct him, 60, 70, don't jump on me, right? So then Marshall starts to think like, well, man, I can't even jump on you now, so without being corrected harshly. So then it's like, well, what's going to happen if I even growl at you, right? So that's what I would recommend, is do that for a week or two. So Zach is stepping away as a companion, asserting himself more as a leader, applying harsher consequence for other things, obedience things, right, outside of the problem, and we see if there's any shifts. If these behaviors happen, if we know, like, oh, you know, right when I leave to work from the night shift, Marshall gets weird, then I go already half an hour prior to you leaving, have Marshall collared up, have that collar already a little bit higher, okay? Maybe even with the leash on, just in case. If I need some extra leverage, should he decide to escalate, I have something to grab, okay? So the next thing is, if Marshall were to start moving towards Zach, okay? Again, we're not going to acknowledge him. I would ignore him, and actually what I would do is the moment I see Marshall walking over to me, I correct him right there. I don't even allow him to get here. I don't even allow him to start. I don't allow him to get to the point where he's here and to the point where now he's growling and baring his teeth at me. The moment I see Marshall moving towards me, I go, I already know what you're going to do. Boom. Correction prior. So the brain doesn't even get to that step 3 or 4. You're correcting him at step 1 or 2 when he's on the way to bully, okay? And what you're going to start to notice, most likely, is Marshall's going to start minding his own business and giving Zach more space. That's what I would call harmony. Okay, so remember, the dog doesn't care. It's the human that cares, because the human wants to have that nice companionship relationship with the dog. But the dog, unfortunately, when you give him that energy, is now asserting himself over Zach, most likely because of stress, or he's not liking the change or whatever. And Zach is now the target for the stress. Okay, so that's how I would address this problem here, Rachel. It was good to hear from you, and if there's any other issue, feel free to ping me with another email. All right, thank you.